you're probably losing rounds in Counter-Strike because of the sounds you don't even realize exist. In this video, I'll show you why sound is one of the most underrated skill factors in CS and how better players quietly abuse it to make smarter reads, win more duels, and avoid getting away free information. We will break down the most powerful sound cues the game gives you, how pros use early round sound cues to predict where the enemy is going before they even see them, and the optimal settings and habits recommended by audio experts from A-Zone, which is one of the leading esports headphone companies. Some of these sound cues are so subtle that once you notice them, you'll wonder how you ever played without them. Excited? You should be. Let's dive in. So not a lot of players know this, but the bomb explosion can actually be abused when you hunt for saving enemies. And pro players, they do it every chance they get. If you know that CT is hiding somewhere, start running him down as the bomb goes off. The blast will mask your footsteps no matter where you are on the map, making your final attempt to get a kill way more successful. This trick simply abuses how loud the bomb is in relation to how quiet the footsteps are in CS for an expected advantage. And speaking about the bomb, did you know that planting on A side of any map in the game gives the C4 different pitch compared to B side? It sounds insane, but here's the actual sound test. Not that it is very useful in a real game because you need to be very close to sight to hear this difference, but it is an interesting mechanic that we need to cover in a video like this. On topic of different sounds, we must mention bounce sounds of grenades. Again, this is used and abused by pro players all the time, but the average player doesn't even know this. When utility bounce from walls or objects in game, they produce specific sound to each grenade. Again, have a listen. The use case for this comes into play, for example, when you're scoped in with an AWP and you know a grenade is flying your way, but you can't tell if it's a flash or an HE. If you can't tell it will explode behind you, by hearing flash bounce, you don't need to worry. But if it's an HE, depending on your HP, you might need to react and give up the angle. Based on sound cues, you get information, and thanks to information, you make decisions. That is how the flowchart goes for good players. To not give away these sound cues, you can abuse the mechanic of a silent drop. Basically, there are spots on the maps where you can avoid doing any sound by clipping the very edge of the texture. I think it has to be the edge of 4 pixels, at least that's how it worked in CS 1.6, and that was labeled an edge bug. There are a few spots where lining up such precise jump is possible and viable. For example, you will see good players use this on Inferno in Apeks, in Mirage Window, Anubis Water, or a bit crazy one here on Nuke. Also, you can use slopes to surf your way down silently, which is easier and possible on maps like Nuke A site, Overpass Under Heaven, or Dust 2 B site. Similarly, silent boosts are very useful because you get up to position without revealing yourself. Here I will include only those where you could jump by yourself, but it is difficult or impossible without making a slight noise. A few of the most popular ones are Inferno into Apps, Mirage into Window, and Ancient A-side boost. Great hidden indicator of your skill and decision making is changing your playstyle depending on your opponent's weapon. There are certain gunshots that sound similar, but if you pay close attention, you realize differences when enemy has just P2000 or a P250. That way, the way you approach the duel should fundamentally change depending on what you go up against. If you have a full buy and like 70 HP, but you know enemy has just P2000, you take that fight any day of the week. Even if he headshots you, you will survive. And if he has just P2000, in 99% of the time, he has no armor, so you can melt him with a confident white peak. This could go badly though if he had P250, because in same situation, you are one headshot away from death. Also, when you hear T's shooting with the deagles at the start of the round across the map, you know they will play on individual picks, and the round will be much slower. If you hear Tech9s, they will play a more explosive round as a pack, probably with more utility to close the distance on you. This is very easy to spot on Inferno or Nuke when T's destroy windows at the start of the round. Listen what gun does that and play accordingly. I mentioned this in one of my secret tips and tricks video, but I have to mention it again. There is a secret mechanic where you can start throwing perfect pop flashes without knowing a single lineup, and it is all based on sound. It sounds crazy, but as you probably know, whenever you move around, the circle in radar shows up showing how loud you are. And the hidden mechanic is that the circle also represents distance of how far the flash will fly if it doesn't bounce from any wall or ground. Let's say you play the newest map, Cache, and you are not sure with your lineups here. Instead of blinding your whole team, you can simply measure on radar how to throw a perfect pop flash for your teammates to peek aim in. And this works on every map, no matter what your radar settings are. Next thing I want to talk about is audio masking. Sounds complicated, but it really isn't, and pro players are getting real crafty with this. Basically, some plays require you to do the sound of breaking a prop or opening a door, but that will be very difficult to hear if there is another louder sound cue triggered at the exact same time, like a grenade or a flash. Here is the example from Nico abusing this in an important round of the game to win this match.
He's got to make some sort of noise. I think he's going to wait for the molly to plume, and that's when he'll go.
He did it. This is what he did last time.
Yeah, and this actually might work.
But this is, they've not heard it. They've not heard it. They've definitely figured something out with that Molotov. JL will give it a look at the last second, but it doesn't matter. He's already dead to rights. Nico Maker! Nico in from below has once again flanked them out.
If you're serious about CS, you probably play some deathmatch to stay sharp or warm up. A lot of players think deathmatch should be played without sound to train your visual reactions and don't play off sound cues. Me and numerous other pros disagree with that heavily. You should put volume low enough to not hear steps, but loud enough to hear gunshots, so you can maximize amount of fair duels in short amount of time. No one likes being killed in bag. You want to at least know the general direction where the closest duel is. Playing deathmatch on full volume is just extremely hurting for your brain, ears, and you will get a headache in no time. There is actually a real phenomenon. Listen to this.
And the first thing I say to everybody who's going to be serious of playing is, don't listen to loud music before you have to enter into a... And that's whether you're a casual gamer or a pro gamer. Don't listen to loud music and loud sounds before you go into a game, because in an hour or two you'll be much more tired and your listening abilities will be much less after some time. And it's something that generally happens slowly, but and we are used to it, so we don't think about it. But you know immediately if you've been to a concert or something like that. When you get home, it's hard to talk to each other on the train back home, and you're just tired in your head without doing anything but probably drinking beer and listening to loud music. So sound is difficult. So you get tired, plus you also lose the ability to distinguish noise from, you can say, signal. And what is signal? Signal is the sounds that you want to hear in your Counter-Strike game, but it's also the communication you have with your teammates.
Quick interruption while we're editing this video. Full interview with these two guys is already up on my channel for all the members. It is more than 1 hour long, so if you're liking this video, you probably want to learn more about audio and settings and everything around that, so it's up on the channel. Here are all the topics and questions that I asked them, so you know what you're getting into.
Little nugget of knowledge about grenades and pins. When you pull a pin on grenade, no enemy can hear that. Only exception is Molly, which starts burning audibly for other players nearby, but not CT incendiary, just a Molotov cocktail on T side. So if you're lining up and execute this audio cue, can give it away. While no one can hear the pins being pulled, everyone will hear when you actually throw the nades and they leave your hand. That is audible. To stay on the topic of grenades, we also have decoys, which are pretty useless at this stage. Pretty much no one buys it, but if you do not throw them randomly if you're on the low buy, because you're just giving away free sound cue to the enemy that you're having like a P250 or maybe Tech 9, and they will again play accordingly, similar to what we already mentioned before. If you headshot an enemy and he does not die, you can tell if he has a head Kevlar or not. The difference is obvious, and if you hit an enemy with helmet, you will hear this ding sound. If you headshot an enemy without helmet, you will hear this gush sound. That is also the difference when someone says he's dinged and he's gushed. And these gushes usually happen on very long distance and usually with the guns like SMGs or Glock. Alright, let's now shift our perspective on how audio is used in pro play, specifically on tournaments. It's actually interesting. If you watch some of the earliest CSGO tournaments, you would notice that teams rushed much more than they do now. The reason behind this actually has nothing to do with the game or player skill. It's due to the headphones they used. You see, back in those days, even when pros played in front of the crowd, they didn't have active noise-cancelling headphones like they do today. Most of the time, we had this extremely uncomfortable noise-reducing earmuffs, similarly to what you would see at the gun ranges or to what's used at the construction sites. Their sole purpose was to reduce noise, but they were pretty bad at it anyway, as they were never designed for the type of noise that the crowd makes. That's why teams rushed so much back then. The lack of the sound made it much more viable strategy, as cities were not able to react fast enough, and it was very hard to stop the rush with Molotovs or ask for flashes at the correct timings without hearing footsteps.
They had been struggling with good enough headphones for the gamers on stage because, yeah, I guess you've all followed gaming, but there's a huge noise when you're sitting in the arena, and of course you know that. You need to be able to hear everything in the game. You need to hear everything that you communicate to your team members. You are not allowed to hear what the spectators yell to you to help you or to distract you or whatever. And you are not allowed also to hear what the opponents are talking to each other about.
To get in-game audio, they had to use in-ears under the earmuffs, and historically gaming in-ears weren't that good, so that was another debuff for players on LAN tournaments. But there is also another side to this. If the noise cancelling sucked, it wasn't just the crowd that players could hear. They could sometimes also hear the commentators. I don't think I have to explain how this affects fair play. Back in those days, it was much more important for commentators to cast in such a way that doesn't give out critical information to either of the teams that were playing. Still, truth is that they often did, and some games definitely were affected to some extent. Players complained, and over time LAN CS has evolved drastically. First tournaments started using helicopter-style noise blocking, which still wasn't ideal, and then the A-zone came around.
When we first started, the solution was some helicopter noise-cancelling head things, and that was not good enough. And I always thought that I was so clever. I thought that I could solve that very, very quickly with making some world's best noise-cancelling headsets, and that's actually what it turned out to be. So
even though pro players today play in front of the crowds that are much bigger, they are equipped with modern technology, active noise cancelling and white noise. These let players hear exactly what they need and block what they shouldn't. But there is still something missing: a microphone. So funnily enough, that is when you go far enough into Counter-Strike history, you will see players actually wearing 3 different types of headphones. Firstly, there are the noise-reducing earmuffs. Secondly, the in-ears. Thirdly, their usual headset around their neck just for the microphone. And let me tell you, that was another can of worms by itself. Firstly, the way a microphone is positioned is the most important thing determining how you sound to others. And obviously, microphones on these headsets were not made to be around players' necks. So it was common for players to cut out while speaking or just breathe into the microphone constantly. But the opposite also applies. If you want good microphone quality, there is a simple microphone positioning rule you can follow.
The right place to place a microphone is as close to the mouth as possible. The problem is, if you put it here in front of the mouth, you actually hear that I'm whistling. In the professional audio world, we say it should sit at the corner of your smile. So you need to place your microphone also if you have a whatever cheaper headset. Put the microphone at the corner of your... So try to smile a little and then put your microphone here. That will give you the highest signal from your speech.
Back in the days, those microphones were designed to be used in players' bedrooms, right? Not in front of the crowds. So push-to-talk was a mandatory because you could sometimes hear everything otherwise. And yeah, you can imagine that could have been used for cheating as well. Today, most tournaments use noise-cancelling headphones by A-Zone. These headphones are leaps beyond the earmuffs we've had in the past, and best of all, they also have a microphone that also uses noise cancelling, so both of these problems have been pretty much resolved. However, players still have to use in-ears, but even that has moved forward, as recently there's been movement towards using professional in-ear monitors, which provide significantly better audio quality. Sometimes in-ear monitors can actually provide much better audio quality for a lower price. So I asked, why?
The advantage of an in-ear monitor is it is cheaper to get good sound off in an in-ear monitor. That doesn't mean that cheap in-ear monitor sounds good, but it's cheaper because you don't need all these mechanics and stuff. Plus, the noise cancelling is easier because you plug up your ear canal, so there's very little noise coming into your eardrum. But if you design a very good in-ear, then you actually get a lot of advantages of sound-wise for a lower price. But then some people can live with in-ears. Some people cannot stand having in-ears in their ears for 2, 3, 4 hours.
This progress in microphone technology has given the players the luxury to use voice activation instead of push to talk. It's actually quite beneficial, as you don't have to focus on holding another button during duels. You can just talk, but sometimes you still have to prevent unwanted noise, and for that, players use a mute button. But a common issue is that they mute themselves at some point and forget that they are muted for multiple rounds, which can be a disaster. And let me tell you, it even happens to pros. I'm not kidding when I tell you that we have lost rounds at big online tournaments because someone was coming thinking we can hear him, but no one responded to him or reacted to his info, and then got frustrated, only to realize he was muted the whole round. Luckily, on most voice programs, there is a setting you can toggle that gives you a warning when you talk while muted, so please enable it. Let's talk settings. It's very simple. For the EQ profile, natural sounds best. While in theory, crisp could give you a little competitive advantage, it sounds worse, so most pros don't use it.
But from a technical standpoint and from a standpoint of do you want the highest competitive advantage, not necessarily the best sounding sound, you actually want to stick with either the natural or the crisp EQ. What the crisp EQ does is emphasize mid to high frequencies, is where some of the most important sound cues in the game live. But there is also a slight boost in some of the lower frequencies with the crisp EQ, and it can potentially also result in fatiguing your ears more because it is a sharper sounding EQ profile. And I think actually Valve mentions that inside the game, that it may sound harsher or sharper. Yeah. So I think my recommendation would be to use the standard setting, natural, I think it's called, which provides no extra equalizing.
Do not touch the LR isolation. Keep it at 0.
The best thing you really can do, actually, to have the best spatial audio, no matter what your setup at home is to keep that left-right isolation at 0%.
Okay.
And for someone who has been playing with it either on 100% or 80% or 85% or 75%, I've seen a lot of different takes on what the sweet spot is. But what I will say is try to turn it off completely and give your ears some time to adapt.
You really must enable the 10-second bomb timer. It's not as accurate as in CSGO, but it gives you a good ballpark. Next up is disable the MVP music. Nothing is worse than battling it out in a 1v1 duel that happens post-round after the time ends. And there's easy for ends slamming into your ears. And in Windows, go to Audio Settings, find Communications, and click on Do Nothing. There, these are the optimal audio settings for CS2. There's no magic. Audio in CS is much more about knowing what to pay attention to instead of the settings. And that is good because that's another way you can express your skill in the game. I hope you learned a lot in this video, and if you did, leave a like or subscribe, and I'll see you in another one. Shout out to you, all of my Patreons and Coffee members, for your continual support. It allows me to create more content like this. Your name is on the screen right now as a little token of appreciation. I used Coffee for years, where you can find extra content and perks at various tiers of membership, but due to popular demand, I set up Patreon too. Nothing changes, both platforms are treated equally, with same content, just for your convenience to use whichever side you prefer. Thank you for making my videos better and possible.